Hi, it's Kylie Koo. This is day 9 of the challenge to create an ATC for each day of the month of June. And my video today is a bit longer than it's been in other days, simply because partway through the process I have to change direction. And all will become clear as we go through this. So I've started by taking some distress ink in walnut stain and just applying that to the ATC. Just trying to build a bit of background colour and just very quickly going round the edge at this stage. So I'll take my spray bottle and just spray that onto the ink, and I immediately like the effect that that's creating. Give it a very quick dry, and what I want to do is to take some of the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics and again just keep adding to that background, as always knowing that quite a bit of this might well be covered up, but wanting sufficient that as I go through the process some will still show through. So I'm just kind of dabbing that on. I don't want too much on, and I've watered it down, so just trying to almost gently build the colour up. And not across the whole card, just in certain parts of it. What I decide at this stage though is that I want to introduce more colour. I do like what's there, and that in itself would make a nice background, but I want some deeper colours. So I stick with the fluid acrylics and now adding this green colour, but again putting plenty of water down because I don't want it too intense in one spot. So just starting with quite a small dab of paint. Now I only have 4 of these colours, and in the end I decide to use all 4 of them. Sometimes when I create a background I get to the point where I think, I could actually just leave this card as is. I like it as is. But that was not the point of today anyway, but it's the sort of thing you could just leave to the side until you're inclined to do more with it, or just leave as is. Anyway, I wanted to take some texture paste, but I didn't want to leave it white, so I decided to add in some vintage photo distress spray. So there I am, just mixing it in. Doesn't quite feel dark enough, so I add in a bit more. And when I start to put it on the card, I think maybe I was a little bit frugal with the amount of texture paste, but I didn't want the whole card covered. But in hindsight, maybe at that stage I should have started with it just a bit thicker. Again, it's not feeling dark enough, so I add some more of the distress spray direct to it. Just giving it a little dry because I don't want the texture paste dry, and just a little bit of a dab off. I then take these Steampunk Gear clear stamps, and what I'm trying to do is to almost reverse stamp. So I want to take it and place it into the texture paste and hope that it will leave an impression in it. And it does a bit, but not quite as detailed as I would have liked. I was just dropping the stamp there into some water so that the texture paste didn't dry on it, because otherwise that would ruin the stamp. So just trying different stamps, and I'm getting a bit of an impression. That was a clock one, and that hardly made any impression at all, but you can see there that there is a bit of something, but I'm honestly feeling that it's not enough. So I dry that off, and I look at it there, maybe it would have been okay, but I decide anyway to apply another layer of the texture paste, but this time I don't mix it, I just apply it straight to the card, and I do it a bit thicker than the first layer. But again, I'm not looking to put it on even, because I do want it to have quite a textured effect. So I take some of my stamps again, which I had washed and dried off, and I'm pushing them down really very heavily into the texture paste. And it's not done what I had hoped. So you see me there, and at this stage I just decide, no, I'm not going to keep going with this, so I just use that stamp just to create a bit of, I guess, just general texture on it. I then take my distress spray again and just spray over it and start to dry it. And actually, the way it's looking, I think, I actually quite like that now. Not what I was setting out to do, but yeah, it's okay. But I want to get rid of the kind of lighter brown parts where the texture paste is still showing through, where it's not taking on the colour. So again, I go back to my fluid acrylics and just dab that around. And as I start to do this, I start to feel that, yeah, it's starting to recover. I'm going to get somewhere with it. I really give up on a piece of art. You know, so even if it doesn't work out how I plan, I just keep going, because usually there's something to discover within it. So now I want to start to add some other elements to it. So just pulling out some pieces of paper, burlap, I think that's a sort of cheesecloth. I don't have a lot of that, just little bits and pieces. But that seemed too stark against the background, so I'm taking the tarnished brass spray to begin with, but I will go on to use the vintage photo as well. And I'd also looked out some gears that I thought I might add to the card. So almost there, sticking with my original theme, which had been going to be gears, I thought, right, maybe I could use those. So just checking that I'm happier with the colour, and then I give that a quick dry. And I'm thinking that I want to wrap that around. So now just thinking about building up some more layers. And I decide to tear around the butterfly. At this point, wanting it to have just a kind of rough outline. So I can see where it's going, but it's not feeling right. So I start to look at, would the gears make a difference? And I like them in some ways, but not in others. And just looking at if I can use that piece of burlap. But thinking that actually it's all too light in colour. So again, I'm going to take some of the spray and just darken it up a bit. And I do that with the piece of paper and with the burlap, and I go on to do it with the butterfly. It was just feeling a bit too bright as well. So adding it on, just rubbing it a bit with my fingers, and then going around it with the walnut stain ink just to darken that kind of edge. And now just looking at how it might all fit together and whether I'm happy with the colours and whatnot at this stage. And the butterfly is bothering me. It's looking far too bright and almost not distressed enough, which is quite a strange thing to say, that a Tim Holtz piece isn't distressed enough, but I cut it out in more detail. And still looking at it, everything, still playing around with it, still not feeling right. Wondered if one of the gears could make a sun. But I'm certain that I want this piece on, so I just cut it down a bit, make it a little bit thinner. Pull out a few threads, and then I'll go on to glue it down with some glossy accents. Take that piece of card, go round it with my walnut stain, and I decide to roll up the edges just a little, so just making sure that they're covered too. At this stage I decide that what would help would be to bring in a bit of the background colours, so you'll see me just adding that. And I think what this does is it ties it into the background, but it still kind of stands out from it. And I just dab the piece of burlap into the colour as well. And now take a bit and add it to the butterfly. And now colour-wise it's starting to feel like it's all fitting in. And I think around that point I decide to discard the gears. So here I am starting to glue everything in place. And just wrapping that around just a little bit, just so it catches on the back. And you see all the time I'm going along, I'm just checking the placement, just to make sure that I'm happy with it. And just using the base of the glue just to push the burlap in particular down and into the glue. So going around the edges of the butterfly just to darken them up, and then I will glue it into place as well. Oh, I do take my pen and just go along a few of the kind of lines on the butterfly. I don't want it standing out too much, but I felt some of the detail had just gone into the background too much. So not adding too much, just a little line here and there. And that's all my main elements now in place. So now just taking the Stabilo All. I go to draw around bits, but actually the texture on the background is so rough it was actually quite difficult to draw, so I just use my paintbrush with some water on the pencil and just take the ink off that way. And that works fine. So I've been thinking about what to call this. I thought about adventure because it felt an adventure going through this, but I started to look through my Chit Chat stickers, and what I came up with was, and I'm going to come to it any second, it was discover. Because it kind of went back to what I was thinking when I was kind of working through the process, and that is, if you keep going, you do discover a piece of art in there. It may not be what you intended in the first place, but there is something. So that settled it. It was discover. So that's it for today. As always, thanks for all your various comments and kind words, very much appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed today's and hope to see you again tomorrow. So thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.